Hello. So I am throwing a wedding where I have 746 cupcakes, and I need to figure out how many cupcakes are going to go on each table if I have 13 tables. I want to share these cupcakes equally. So if I'm going to write down the number 746, and I first look at the hundreds place, I realize that I can't fit 100 cupcakes onto 13 tables because that would mean I need over 1,000 cupcakes, which I don't have. So I'm going to look at this hundreds place, and it's a 7, and so I have 7 hundreds. So once I look at this 700, I realize that I can't share 700 cupcakes equally onto 13 tables. So I'm going to regroup this 700 into 70 tens, and I can equally share 70 tens into 13 groups. Let's look at this using the base 10 block. So looking at the base 10 representation for 746, I have 7 flats, 4 longs, and 6 ones. I'm going to make it a little bit more clear. Now, we know that 700s can be regrouped into 70 tens. So I have the 70 tens over here. But I also have these pre-existing 4 tens that I'm also going to add because we have not figured out how to equally share those either. So now I want to figure out how I can equally share 74 tens onto 13 tables. So I'm going to count out 13 tens and then make a group, and then I'm going to keep on going. So I have 2 groups of 13 now. So when I've grouped these 74 tens into 5 groups of 13, what I've really done is for each table, in order to equally share 74 tens onto my 13 tables, I have distributed 1 cupcake. I went to all the 13 tables and gave 1 cupcake each, and then I realized I had more. Because that would be only using 13, so I did another group, which means another group of 13, which is 2 groups of 13. Then I went on to 3 groups of 13, then 4 groups of 13, then 5 groups of 13, and I did not have enough to give 6 cupcakes per 13 table. The reason why I didn't have enough cupcakes to give 6 cupcakes per table. There's 9 tens remaining. So if we're going to take the 9 tens that we have left, put them over here and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, 9. We cannot equally share that onto the 13 tables because if I were going to take each 10, we would still have 6 tables. That wouldn't get a 6th cupcake. So if we were going to look at this symbolically, like I said, we can't fit 700. We can't equally share 700 cupcakes onto 13 tables. So we regrouped into 70 tens, and I'm going to estimate how many groups of 13 I can make to go into 70 tens, and then we also have again these 4 tens, so 74 tens. How many groups can I make into 74 tens? I know that 13 times 3 is 39, and I have more 10s than 39, so I'm going to try to go a little bit higher. I'm going to try 13 times 5, regroup. So we have 6 in the tens place, 5 in the ones place, that makes 65. So it means that I can equally share 74 cupcakes onto 13 tables with 5 cupcakes per table. So I'm going to put that 5 right above the tens place because we're dealing with tens. So when I subtract the 65 cupcakes that I've used with the 74 tens that I have, I'm left with 9. And as we saw with the base 10 blocks, I am left with 9 tens. We cannot equally share 9 tens onto 13 tables, so I'm going to have to regroup these 9 tens into 91s. In other words, I am regrouping these 9 tens into 90 whole cupcakes. Let's look at the base 10 blocks to see how I'm going to regroup them. So now I have regrouped these 9 tens into 90 ones, but I also still have those 6 ones that I had originally from the 746 cupcakes that I'm going to add to the 90 ones because we haven't figured out how to equally share those pre-existing 6 ones. Now I need to figure out how I'm going to equally share these 96 cupcakes onto 13 tables. So if I again draw out my 13 tables, I'm going to equally share these 96 whole cupcakes onto the 13 tables. I'm going to do so by first distributing 1 cupcake per table. And I see I've only used up 13, so I'm going to go again and again and again until I've used up as many as I can before I use up more than I have. So as seen in the drawings, I was able to give each table 7 whole cupcakes. I have 5 cupcakes left, and I can't equally share 5 cupcakes onto the 13 tables. If I were to divide it into little pieces, that wouldn't look so great for the wedding. Now let's do this symbolically. So, before where we left off, I was left with 9 tens. And I regrouped those 9 tens into 91s, as seen with the base 10 blocks. So now, because I haven't used that 6, and I haven't figured out how we're going to equally share those 6 ones, and we've already regrouped the 9 tens into 91s, I'm going to bring down the 6 ones, and I have 96 that whole cupcakes that I'm going to try to equally share onto 13 tables. Now, in order to figure out how many cupcakes are going to go onto each table, we can use estimation again. So I already know that 13 times 5 is 65. I can definitely put more than 5 cupcakes onto each table because we already know that that 5 cupcakes is 65, but we have 96 ones. So let's try a little higher. We'll do 13 times 7. We get 1. Carry the 2 tens. And 1. So, because we have 90, so now I have 91 ones. I have now figured out that I can equally share the 96 cupcakes onto 13 tables with 7 whole cupcakes per table because the product of 13 times 7 is 91, so I'm not going over those 96 cupcakes that I have or using more than I'm given, but I'm very close to those 96. So I'm going to put a 7 right where the ones place is, and then I'm going to subtract the 91 cupcakes I've used from the 96 cupcakes that I have, and I'm left with 5. Again, I cannot equally distribute these 5 cupcakes onto the 13 tables. That would look pretty bad for a wedding because then we would have little slivers of cupcakes on wedding tables. So in the end, I have, with the 746 cupcakes that I'm given, that I want to equally share amongst 13 tables, I can put 57 cupcakes per table and still have 5 left over. I think I'm going to eat them later.